Hi there. Well, today, two important things are going on. One is, of course, the Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is the start of the campaign, the start of a lot of different things. I'll be talking about that, which I think is very, very important. And the other is that today, June 20th, is the June solstice. Now, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, you could call it the summer solstice. It's technically the longest day of the year. And I love that. A lot of people don't know what causes the seasons. So let me just tell you really quick. It's the tilt of the Earth's axis. It's not how close we are to the sun or how far we are from the sun. It's about the tilt of the Earth's axis. So it's very interesting. I learned all about this in a physical geology class that I took, I think, my first year of college, and I loved it. If you don't know about the solstices and the equinoxes, it's super fascinating. You should just look it up. Right now, it's so easy to understand. Anyway, now onto the subject. There is a lot going on. I think that we have a lot to feel positive about. And that doesn't mean that we don't all get discouraged. But let me read a quote from Porphyria. And Porphyria is someone who made a comment on one of my videos. And I don't know if it's a he or she, but this person said, "It seems to me the world has gone crazy. Some of it has possible positive aspects." That's good. It's good. Let's always remind yourself of that. People waking up to the reality of what they have been voting for when they voted for Dems. Good. But on the whole, I'm scared to death of what's happening. Now, from a psychological point of view, be careful of the words that you tell yourself. I'm scared to death. You may think that's just a throwaway comment, but those words seep into your unconscious. Don't use words like that. See if you can catch them. They're in our language all the time. Try not to use it. Just say, if you have to just say, I'm currently scared of what's happening, but not I'm scared to death. No, your brain takes that in. Don't let that happen. Okay. So, as many of you know, I'm on Twitter, and I love it. Twitter, like my videos, you can control what you see. And the reason why that's important is I have a hard time listening to some of the things on the left. It's like I'm on another planet when I read what some of these people do or say. So on Twitter, you can block anybody you don't like. And I really don't get that. I don't have a huge number of followers, but it's certainly the followers are great. But whenever you find something and you retweet it, or you can follow the people that you like to follow. That's my point. And so, oh my God, there's just a ton of people that feel the way we do out there. A ton of people. Now, I didn't get a chance to retweet this, but there was a series of tweets from this Kurt Schlichter, Schlichter, and Kurt spelled K-U-R-T. I used to have read him on townhall.com, but I also like his tweets. So he had a series of 17 tweets that in total made a thing. But here's his last tweet. Want a quick sanity check? Look out your window. Unless you overlook Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, the Atlantic Wendy's, or that DC Square, there's no chaos outside. It's all a show designed to scare you away from Trump and into the gropey embrace of Puppet Joe. That's always been what I've tried to convey in these videos. that recognize that what you see on the news and around everywhere else, you always see the worst of it. It's not what's... There's two aspects. One, I very much believe in being politically active, voting. Get the people you want in there, get the policies you want in there. That's very important. But what's really important as well is, what do you do in your own life? If you make yourself miserable because of what you see or think in what's going on out there, people, life is just too short. The real thing that happens is everybody that you know and love, if they don't die tragically, they will grow old and die. Everybody, including your pets. That will happen faster. But that's the reality. That's the real tragedy of life. And I kind of envy those people who believe that they'll see the people in heaven and things like that. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. My brain doesn't really go there. I believe that once you know somebody, once that person has been in your life, even when they're gone, they're always with you. They're always with you. And that doesn't end. So that's my comfort. But anyway, what Kurt is talking about here is the things that we're seeing on television, and the riots and tearing down of statues and all these things we do not approve of. We do not approve of. Just recognize that it's not happening to most people. I used to do a lot of traveling around the world in various places, and I grew to learn that it's always exaggerated when you see it. So for example, I was in London, and on CNN I saw the big earthquake, January 17th, 1994, that we had here. And it sounded worse than it actually was. I mean, there was a big earthquake here in Los Angeles. Another time I remember when I was in Indonesia, working on a satellite system. Oh, in Central California there was an earthquake. And it sounded so much worse when I was there. Now, I was actually hiking in Botswana, and it was like a walking tour. So I walked into this camp, and this was in September of 2001, and the woman said, "Deborah, there's news from America," and we heard it over the radio, and this big tower in New York was hit. There were two of them, and I said, "That sounds like the World Trade Center, because there's two towers." And there was nobody I could talk to. But as I traveled around the rest of Africa during that time, I heard crazy things like, they've stopped all flights in the US. And I thought, oh, that's just, really? No, they wouldn't do that. Well, of course they did. But I missed all that. It was very frustrating not to be able to talk to Harold or my husband or talk to anybody. But what I did remember was the intense amount of sympathy when people found out I was from the US. Everywhere I went. Oh, you're from the US? Oh, we're so sorry about what happened. I mean, everybody thought it was terrible, 9/11. So anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but that was the one time where what they said was actually true. But most of the time, what you see, what you hear in the news, you've got to understand you are just seeing the worst of it. I mean, even here, like seeing the videos of what happened in Santa Monica, it didn't really affect me. And I'm not that far from Santa Monica. Now, I'm not saying it didn't affect people. It did. But I think it's very important that we not make ourselves miserable. Because one of the things I try to do in these videos is how can we be effective, and how also can we live a good life at the same time? And it's always a struggle. It's a struggle for me. So I'm careful not to watch too much stuff like this just before I go to bed, because I'll wake up in the middle of the night and my brain will be, and I'll have trouble sleeping. So I have to like time it. I have to think about when I'm gonna let myself see this news. And I don't blame any of you who don't bother with that news, because I don't think you have to do that, but you do have to vote. And you do have to set a good example to other people. I think that is important. That's an important rule that we all have to have. Now, let me get back to Kurt, his series of tweets, because he actually said kind of what I wanted to say, but probably better. Because, you know, a lot of people think, oh, Trump should do this, Trump should do that. Well, I'm very, very aware of the limitations that Trump has. Having, as many of you know, I was in Washington. I've worked with a lot of politicians. I recognize you got to be careful. And I've been watching Trump very carefully. And he's like the best that we could have at this time. The best. But he is fighting a huge, huge battle. We just have to help him. Okay, so here's Kurt. Everything looks like it's falling apart, right? Wrong. It is meant to look like that. They want you to make emotion-driven moves that will help them win. Don't get woke. Pulling down statues in leftist cities that refuse to maintain order is an attempt to psych you into thinking everything is out of control. It's not. A couple hundred people in San Francisco, the local cops were ordered to let it happen. Same with DC. What is this? So you think, why isn't Trump doing something? But it's a few hundred bums, out of 330 million population. And local cities could turn it off in a heartbeat, but refuse to. Why? To convince you, the law and order types, that Trump is allowing mass chaos. But it's not mass by any standard. Nor is it chaos. The local Democrats are actively facilitating it and making sure no one is actually getting hurt, except dummies that the statues fall on. What would you have Trump do? Have him do a dirty, violent job the locals refuse to? Send soldiers in and risk real violence, which plays against him? It's infuriating, and it's meant to be, but Trump's right not to take the bait. Now, let me just say something. I don't really think that the Democrats have this plan. I really don't. I was a Democrat. It's not that organized. They're all working against each other. They just don't really know what to do. So I don't think it's like a plan. But Trump is absolutely right. Let me look at what he did. He cleared out the area around the White House. Of course he should clear out the area around the White House. And you had those generals speak against him? No, let him do this, okay? And in the cities where they mistreat the police officers, let the police officers walk out in the so-called blue flu. I mean, you have to let this play out, because this is Democrats that are doing this. Trump is right. Can't blame this on him. The answer is to let the leftist cities, have their performance art fun. Let them trash themselves. Understand how it's meant to manipulate you. I don't know what his next sentence means. It looks like a typo. But he says, do not do what the enemy wants. Remember, people, this is war. This is war. Be woke to the enemy's game plan. Support the president. Do not be suckered. He isn't. Watch him use the DOJ, Department of Justice, and he is. Buy guns and ammunition for legitimate deterrence and lawful self-defense. Many of you know I have a gun loaded in a safe place, but where I can access it. But I just looked up to see where in Los Angeles you could buy a gun, and there's plenty of places. So if you don't have it, you can get it. Vote GOP down the line. Better yet, campaign. I've stressed this over and over in my videos. You've got to vote GOP down the line. Even the rhinos, okay? We put pressure on the rhinos. We give the rhinos hell, but vote them in. Because remember, like for example in the House, one of the reasons a lot of Trump supporters stayed home in the 2018 midterm elections, and the Democrats, now most of these Democrats that they ran because they were moderate, they were going to be bipartisan. They didn't do it. They all voted for impeachment, virtually all of them. But if you have the numbers, then the Speaker of the House becomes Kevin McCarthy, not Nancy Pelosi. The Republicans set the agenda, and then we go after them. The ones that speak out against the policies we don't like, give them hell. I mean, look at Lindsey Graham. He just goes off the rails sometimes. But then he gets scared because Republicans are mad. And let me just tell you something about that. Tell you something. Like, I'm going to tell you. You all know this anyway. Look at Tucker Carlson's show. He just talked about how angry he was about all of this. And he got the highest rated show in all of television. I think it was Monday night. All of television. He told the truth about Black Lives Matter. I'll have something to say about that. He talked about, and that's kind of shocking. Now, Sean Hannity is taking a very, he talks a lot about, reforming the police and how terrible about George Floyd and blah, 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 blah. He's kind of losing support. Sean Hannity, however, Tucker Carlson is very good. And so is Laura Ingraham. She's very good. Those are my two favorites. And Greg Gutfeld's pretty mad. So I like to hear what he has to say. But that's about it. Sean Hannity's just a little bit too much. Even when Dan Crenshaw, whom I like, the guy with the patch, on the day of the funeral, I'm so sick about making this big deal about George Floyd. Yes, it was a murder, but there's been a lot of people murdered during these riots. Good people. And going on, and he tweeted out something about, George Floyd, how terrible. And I thought, you're not winning any votes with that one, dude. Enough already. Don't make this guy into a hero. By the way, Candace Owen talks a lot about that. She says, why do we blacks make heroes out of criminals? He was murdered. He shouldn't have been murdered, that's for sure. But don't make him into our hero. By the way, I think this is going to have a big effect. Larry Elder's Uncle Tom movie. You can get it on uncletom.com. I haven't downloaded or whatever, but I think on demand it's $19.99, which is $20, right? I think that's going to have a big effect on the black community. The people who not yet. There's a lot of blacks that support Trump, but the ones that don't yet, oh boy, I think it's going to be a game changer. It's just really, really good, and I'm very happy. So it's out now. Okay, that's enough about Kurt Schucker. He went on a lot. But one of the things the reason I want to point that out is because you can just be so upset looking at this stuff. And don't be, okay? Well, I shouldn't say don't be. One of the things to remind yourself, whatever you are feeling, okay? That means other people are feeling it too. So one thing I learned in politics, whatever you are feeling, other people are feeling it too. Just because you don't hear it, just because people don't say it, they're thinking it. You need to point it out to some people though. Like my windows got cleaned. I try to do that every 3 months, but I hadn't seen him, Fernando, and he's got a great company. He came over and he was receptive. I talked about all of these things. I talked about Joe Biden and his kind of dementia. Because I'm guessing that Fernando, just by what I sensed, very nice man, very great company, good service. He was very receptive to what I was saying about my support for Trump and what's been going on, and especially my talking about the coronavirus. And, asking him, how many people do you know that it's been killed and why I think it's overhyped. Let me say something about Black Lives Matter. I haven't heard this a lot, although somebody did mention it, and one of them was sort of indirectly. When somebody says, I support Black Lives Matter, you need to ask them, do you support the concept? Because most of the people support the concept. Or do you support the organization itself, which is like a socialist, Marxist organization that wants to destroy the nuclear family? It has all kinds of things. And if you go to their site, they're supporting Democrats. So they're really using this for a democratic socialist agenda. So what is it? Okay? So you can support the concept, but make sure you make a differentiation about the organization, because there's a big difference. And what got me thinking about that was when I heard Tucker Carlson say there was some poll where a huge number of people said they support Black Lives Matter. Well, I'm always very suspicious about these polls because a lot has to do with how the question is phrased. So the reflexive reaction of most people would be, yeah, well, I support Black Lives Matter because most people support that concept. So I'm going to ask you a quiz question. Are you ready? Now, of course, the answers are my point of view, but if you've been listening to me for a while, you may know the answer. What are the 3 things that leftists worry about, and I mean sincerely worry about, sincerely believe, teach children about, that are bogus? I'll give you time to think about it. Now, before I give you my answer, let me just say why this is psychologically so interesting to me. And the reason is, I used to think that if you could fix things in the outside world, if you could make things really good for people, economic progress, better technology, whatever. I mean, think about our lives today. Oh my God. Everybody, in a sense, is richer than the most wealthy person in the 1950s, in terms of, I can just order anything online. I have an amazing encyclopedia on a computer. I don't have to go to a library. I can read publications. I can make a video on my iPhone and upload it and have people watch it. This is just like But that doesn't affect people's happiness or levels of anxiety. It doesn't fix them in any way. So it's almost like, and I'm quoting Patrick Moore, they gotta make stuff up. They gotta make stuff up. Okay, so what are these three things? And here's the thing. Once you're on to one of them, well, maybe there's four things now that I think about it. But let's just stick to these three, because these have kind of an academic science backing. I'm forgetting about the whole Trump derangement syndrome. First one is climate catastrophe. And as I've said many times, this is what originally caused me to walk away. It took me a long, long time because I just believe the science. So they have climate catastrophe. Well, another thing that interests me a lot is health issues. I'm very much into that. But I've learned that the medical community is not really good at that. So the second one is this whole coronavirus. You have got some people just totally freaked out. And they're freaked out about the wrong things regarding health. And I feel like I can speak with some authority. I keep talking about this. I'm very big into longevity, health, doing what you can do to live a healthy life. And I'm 66 years old, and I'm very healthy. So the older I get and the healthier I stay, gives me credibility when I talk about this. And then the other one now is systemic racism, and I think this is horrible. You actually have people teaching their children that you're going to walk out there and you are going to be attacked by police, by their systemic racism out there. What a horrible, horrible thing to put in people's heads. And I'll tell you another thing about that that's so bad. We need to teach people how to respond to police. You know, nobody ever taught me. Like, never resist arrest. If there's a light going on, pull over. Because people mix things up in their mind. I remember when I was, let's see, I think it was about 19. And I had a guy from work in my car. He wasn't like a boyfriend or anything. And I guess I had just seen a movie about how women get pulled over by fake sirens or something, and then the guy rapes a woman or whatever. So a cop had the flashing light behind me, and I didn't pull over. And the guy, he was kind of a little sort of meek person. I think his name was Dennis. And he said, I think you should pull over. But I'm like, I don't want to pull over. Maybe it's just, it seems, but nobody ever told me. And, but then he had a bullhorn. Hey, you, Volkswagen, pull over. So I pulled over. And he came up to the car. He was mad because I didn't pull over. I was thinking about this when this one woman, this older white woman, she didn't look very educated, anyway, I think she might have heard that police were, I don't know what it was, but she ended up getting tased by this cop that very much overreacted because she refused to sign something or whatever. I mean, we actually need to train people. What do you do? So my concern is that there's a lot of people who are going to have an attitude when they get pulled over by the cops or when they try to resist arrest, and we're going to just create more problems. I mean, I'm old enough now to know what to do. I mean, I've argued with cops before, and it's not a good idea because I've run into some weird cops in my past, and most people who mouth off like I do have had that experience. But I know not to do it now. But I'm old enough. I've learned through experience and life experience, but we're not teaching kids what to do. You cooperate, okay? And by golly, right now with everybody having an iPhone, hit the record button if you're concerned. Because if that cop says things to you that shouldn't be said or whatever, you can do something about it. You can have some proof. Not just a camera, but proof. And I got that from talking to the guy who comes and sprays here for ants once a month. A black guy who has his own business, great guy. But he was thinking about when he was a kid and he had a problem with the police officer. Because I was trying to talk to him about what's going on. And he was a little bit resistant, I think, because of that experience. Because he was with an older brother who kind of mouthed off to the cop. And the cops, were really rude to them. And I told him, well, right now you could record that. It's just sort of like the Me Too movement. If a guy's harassing you at work or something, you just, turn on your phone. And you can record it. I mean, the technology gives us ways to fight back if you need to fight back. But we need to teach people how to deal, what to do when you get pulled over. It's incredible. Okay? Now I have a few other things I want to say. Because a lot's been talking about white privilege, and I started thinking about that. What is privilege? What is privilege? Well, if you were born healthy, that's privilege. I mean, some people are born with severe physical or mental issues. Physical defects. That's tough. That is tough. But the real privilege is what happens in your first 3 years. So if you have a loving environment, for example, my niece Lindsay, who has 3 children, she's like the best mother I've ever seen. Seriously, the best mother. And her kids are just so delightful. I just adore them all. And they've got a great dad too, a great dad. But those first 3 years, you haven't developed your hippocampus, which is your memory, but what you've developed is a feeling about things. And those feelings will carry over. So the reason I know, I've read and studied so much about this, because my sister was born a year and a half after I was, and I really lost my mother too soon, and that profoundly affected my life. When I say I lost my mother, because she put the focus on the next child. And I spent my whole life dealing with that. I think I've healed it, but that was tough. And I remember when my dad told me, I didn't have a conscious memory of it, but he said, oh yes, when Denise was born, you used to cry and cry every night. And I would try to comfort you. And when he said it, a kind of a shudder went through my body. I thought, oh my gosh, yes. Now, here's what I love about that little girl, about myself. I really became attached to Denise. I didn't hate Denise for that, but by golly, I was going to protect her, take care of her, and I felt very close to her. And still do, as you know from these videos. But anyway, another thing, I had a lot of good things from my parents. There were some things that could have been done better, but basically, it was good. But another thing I noticed, and this is something you can do for all children, and even your partner, acknowledge them when they walk into the room. So when I was married to Harold for a third of a century, when one of us came home, the other one would jump up and go greet him. You're home, you're back, whatever. Don't just sit there and go, oh, hi, if you haven't seen them all day. But I can remember always, if I walked in on my parents, oh, they call me Debbie. Debbie's here. Debbie's here. What a gift. And I didn't really think about that until I was talking to somebody, and they talked about when they kind of walk into a party, they're kind of worried that people won't like them. And I thought, when I go into a strange situation, I always think people are going to like me. That's my going in assumption. And why is that? Because when I would walk into the room, they were happy to see me. Always. I never was like, oh, you're here. Ugh. Oh my God, that's such a gift you can give to a child. Please do that, okay? And it's particularly the first 3 years, because after that they form memories. The personality is already formed. And it's really formed even more by the 6 years. And that should be a comfort. If you raise your children right and something happens to you, which I'm sure is just like the most painful thought for any parent. What if something happens to me and I'm not there to take care of my children? If you give them that basic start in life, oh my God, they're so privileged. That is privileged. Money can't make up for that. Any other circumstance can't make up for that. Nothing. Nothing can make up for that. So give that to children. Okay. Let me talk about Joe Biden briefly. I think the shutdown has really hurt Joe Biden. Because one of the things that happens is with cognitive decline, like he has, if you can at least exercise your brain, like if he was forced to have conversations with people and interact with people and be out on the campaign trail, it wouldn't be as bad as it is right now. But because he's been kind of in his basement and limited contact, I have seen a rapid decline. I mean, he's had a decline for quite a while, but a rapid decline in his cognitive abilities. It's bad, people. It's really bad. And we're going to see it when he tries to step out more. Because there's a thing called neuroplasticity. And you have got to exercise your brain to keep it going, particularly when you're older. You should be doing crossword puzzles. You should be talking, engaging with people. If you want to keep your cognitive abilities up, you have got to exercise not only your body, but your brain. And he hasn't been doing it. Trump has been doing it all day long. And then, here's the new civil rights frontier that I think we need to push for. I'm planning on pushing for it. We need civil rights for conservatives. Civil rights for our political views. I mean, think about it. We got civil rights for blacks, for women, and now, I think we should definitely have had civil rights for homosexuals. I'm really disappointed that transgender stuff got thrown in there. But why is it that if you express a view that somebody doesn't like, you could actually be fired for your political thoughts? I mean, we need a civil rights bill. Just like we had the Civil Rights Act in the 60s, we need a civil rights bill for political and religious thought. I think we have it for thought. For religion. I'm not sure I'm sure it does. But how is it that you can be fired for expressing an opinion? Now, we also need to do something about social media, and we will. I don't think the answer is to break them up. That's not it. We just need to change that they cannot shut down views they don't like. And we'll figure that out through that legislation and, I forget the number, 230, whatever it is. I think we can do it that way. I don't think the solution is to break them up. That doesn't mean anything. I don't care about that. But they should not be allowed to shut up conservatives as they do. That is election interference, folks. That is election interference. And they've been doing it. We got to stop that. First of all, we got to talk about it. They should be investigated. Okay? They call it hate speech, but it's not hate speech. It's their opinion of hate speech. Not good. That's the next frontier. That's what we got to do. So, as many of you know, I want to thank you all because I have my episode of 3 weeks ago where I said I was pro-choice, like pro-life, and I changed and I did a walk. I put the walk away hashtag. So I'm still getting a lot of views on that. It's very gratifying, and over 7,800 views. I now have 2.12K subscribers. Remember, for a long, long time, I was just stuck at 1.91K. So I'm hoping some of you listening are my new subscribers. I appeal to a certain type of person. I'm not trying to get the numbers up. I only want people who enjoy having this conversation. So if I haven't responded to all your comments, it's only because I've been getting a lot of comments. But I read them all, and I love, because it seems like only kind of thoughtful people who want to think about things are attracted to this kind of discussion. And I'm honored. I am so honored that you are here. And this is really a wonderful time that we live in. We'll win this battle. We will so win. Oh my God, let me just say one more thing about the Trump rally, which is just starting right now. I'm recording it on the television, so while this is uploading, I will go watch it. I love what Trump is doing, okay? You cannot take on this coronavirus fear head on, okay? But we have got to get past this. We have just simply got to get past this. And the one way to do it is, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why the left tried so hard to shut down this rally. Because if you can show that people can get together and mass deaths won't occur, expect that coronavirus cases to go up, okay? There's a lot of manipulation there, a lot of manipulation, okay? But nothing really bad's gonna happen. I'm convinced nothing bad is gonna happen. And I was so happy to see most of the people aren't wearing masks. I'm sick of those masks. I hate those masks, okay? And the only way to fight it, like our governor, Gavin Newsom in California, everybody outside has got to wear masks. It's like, really? No. Nope, nope, no. First of all, police will not try to enforce that. So the only way they can enforce it is by social pressure. Well, I'm not giving into it. So I was walking with Robert yesterday, and we were talking. We were in the middle of talking about something. And some guy walked past with a mask. And he's like, what's wrong with you? So he's like shocked. Oh, we're not wearing a mask. I would say half the people are wearing masks. Now maybe that number will go up because once they hear about this, they might think they have to do it. But what are you going to do? I'll be nice if a cop says something. I'll just say, no, it's in my car. I'll have to go get it. I didn't think you all would be trying to enforce that. But whatever. I'll be polite because I'm not going to give any problems to the police, not with what they're going through right now. But I don't think they're going to do anything. And I think we just have to not follow. Just don't follow these petty, silly things. Just don't do it. Don't do it. This has been fun. Thanks for being here. And I look forward to any comments you want to send. And I'm going to go watch that rally because we're ready for it. And happy solstice, everybody. Bye.